guys, welcome back to the Bayside Fabrication YouTube channel. Thanks for tuning in. I apologize, I haven't posted a video in like 3 weeks. I've been super busy with work the past couple weeks. I just got free actually the past couple days here. I've had family down, I've had landscaping to do outside, so the car unfortunately kind of got put in the back burner this past month, just with everything else going on, springtime, and you know, I'm sure you guys understand all that stuff. So I'm now back at it, and this video is essentially going to be all bunch of really small things that I had to do that added up to being a ton of time. I mean, making all the lines for the power steering pump, the cooling system, reservoir, all that kind of stuff. Just, you know, installing MAC valves for the turbo. Really just a lot of small things that are necessary in order to get this car back in action. So today I'm just gonna show you the highlights of all that stuff, and man, I'm really hoping that this might be the last video before the car's running. So I got my fingers crossed that I'll be able to get everything done, and the next step and the next video will be this car starting up for the first time, which I am super pumped about. So thanks for watching, and let me know what you guys think.
It's time to get this back into that. So I'm just buttoning up a bunch of things on this motor that while it's out, just because it's much easier to do while it's sitting here. Obviously we got the oil pan on and all that stuff you saw in the last video. This past couple days I've just been doing stuff, minor things, welding new fittings on some of our coolant lines, because I'm using all 3/4 inch coolant lines because that's what's on the car. So for example, this was a 5/8 line. I had to bump it up to a 3/4, not a big deal. And obviously, as you can see on this one, stock K-Series goes towards the opposite direction here. So all of our stuff is routed on the passenger side, rather. So all of our coolant lines and our heater core lines go to the passenger side on this car. So I did that there. I took this hard line and I modified it and made a little bracket here. So this is a stock hard line that's just been modified, and this is gonna dump it out into this direction. And like I said, we're using all this blue 3/4 inch silicone hose for that, and we're using 1¼ inch silicone hose for the main radiator lines. So that's kind of the little things I'm doing here today. I'm just gonna throw some plugs in it. We're just gonna go through and make sure everything's all back together. I gotta put the crank pulley back on and just do a lot of little things like that, and then it's gonna go in the car. Okay, check this out. I have an oil filter relocation kit, and this also is a oil cooler kit. So essentially what I'm going to do is this adapter plate, an O-ring goes on here, and it threads on right where our oil filter is. All right guys, check this out. I'm running into a little issue here that I just want to share with you guys. How hard this is going on is making me a little bit worried. So check this out. This is a problem I'm having. Now, it almost doesn't make any sense because the car it came off of, the pressure plate was flat on that one. So this is identical. This was what came off the old motor. And from the pressure plate backwards, it's all the same. So the other pressure plate was a dual mass, but it was just a flat surface. There was nothing crazy going on. But you see here, I have this little gap on the dowels. It's not tightening up against that. And furthermore, I'll rotate this. You can see I have very little room to disengage this. I mean, it was a really tight clutch before. Like, it was on-off switch pretty much, but this just seems astronomically tight. It almost feels like there needs to be a spacer or something behind the pressure plate here, you know, just like a washer or something, but that doesn't seem right, you know? I'm gonna call my buddy who's a Porsche guy, who's done a ton of these, and see if he's ever run into this. I talked to my buddy about our clutch situation. He's never seen a Porsche clutch have that type of tension on it. However, he has had experience with a clutch like this and shimming it, and it doesn't end well as far as clutch slippage. So he says if it was good before, then just go with it. Here we go. Jacked up to the moon. Don't let anybody tell you you need some fancy shop or lifts and all this stuff to do some rad things, because you really don't. I'm in a bay-and-a-half garage, so we can do some rad things. So right now, We're gonna roll this under there. We'll jack the motor up. Party time. Woo, fired up, guys. So it's back in the engine bay. Now, I do want to show you something. I'll try to get a light in here. I got about 1 inch now on this valve cover. The old one I had 1/4 inch. And now that's really exciting because I was gambling on the bottom a little bit. I only had like 3/16 of an inch gap. So I might raise the motor mounts up just a little bit, split the difference. And now we'll have a nice even gap between the top and the bottom here. But it's looking really good in here. Now I'm going to mess with these coils and our spark plug wires. So we have the AEM smart coils, also known as IGN 1A coils. These are pretty hot rod coils from my understanding. And I bought a MSD make your own spark plug kit. So these just come with a bunch of length and you essentially cut and create your own terminals and whatever style boots you want. And that's what we're going to do on this because I didn't know where these are ultimately going to go and things like that. So it's just easier to do it that way. I think the whole kit was like $70 or something like that, maybe 50. So it wasn't even that expensive. And it was a V8 application. So we have extras to play with. For some reason we messed it up. So the first thing I want to show you is that what I'm doing is adding these nylon washers here. And we're sliding the washers down to the end here. And what the issue I was having was you go to plug this into the cylinder, and once you get through the valve cover, you're pretty much trying to push it down, and it's doing one of these things, and it doesn't want to clip in. So this hard nylon washer allows us to take something like a screwdriver. I'll just use this welding rod, for example. And then you can just push it on this hard surface. So once it's in there, you can give it a good clip with that. And then I also picked up these rubber plugs here. You can see they're tapered. And I'm going to drill a hole in the center of these. And these will act as a stopper in our cylinder. I'm going to take a stock coil right here. These are rigid plastic coil, plastic bodies. And they don't allow for any flexibility. Now, cylinders 2 through 3, no problem. You could run stock coils all day long. This one, however, is the problem right here. You can see it hits and there's no flexibility here, so we can't get it into the spark plug tube. So you can't run a stock coil on the first one unless you feel like dropping your motor anytime you want to change spark plugs, which defeats the whole purpose for having this cutout here anyways. So obviously we're not going to be doing that, and that's why I'm running these smart coils on this setup, because then we can, simply, run our plug in there, and now we can mount our coils wherever we want. So yeah, that's kind of the idea. I just want to share that with you guys. So this is the final solution here. So we got our plug stoppers in, everything clicks in, the coil leads clip in nice and even. Once the cover's on, it will just kind of flatten out the cables a little bit. I'm waiting on a couple 90-degree ORB fittings for our vent, and we'll likely have to just run the AN line straight back and then down. We don't have really any room right here behind the head, but we can go this way. We got plenty of room behind the intake. So it got a little crowded up there. Wasn't really looking forward to that. I did make a little tool to clip on our coils. Like I said, that boot is wiggly, so I just took an old Harbor Freight screwdriver and just welded a washer that I cut into it, and we just are able to push it down nice and even. So we'll throw that in the specialty tool bin in the toolbox. And now on to, let's see, we might deal with cooling system a little bit. So we have our fuse box now mounted. Let me see if we get a little light in here. Fuse box mounted. We're just kind of getting things tucked up and sorted out and where they want to live. We're kind of reinventing the wheel on a lot of this, so there's a lot of figuring out to do once it gets to the nitty-gritty side of things. Right now, the exact thing I'm doing is now we got the wiring all stuffed up and into the engine bay, or into the cabin rather. we're now working more on the engine side of things. Power steering is our next move. Now, the best move would have been to spend the $1,600 and get an electric power steering kit and not have to worry about any of this, but I didn't want to go that route just because I wanted to be able to prove functionality of this setup. So we're using the stock power steering pump, and we're going to see how this works. Now, I said prove that, blah, blah, blah. The reality was I didn't want to spend $1,600 on a power steering pump when we have a perfectly good one sitting here, and all we had to do is weld a couple fittings onto the pump, and then, kind of hard to see, weld a couple fittings to the line. So we have a 10 AN low pressure side, so this will be the suction inlet to the pump, and then we have a 6 AN, this is a high pressure, going to the rack. So all we need to do now is have our reservoir here that I already fabricated and weld a couple fittings on that for the low pressure side. So let me show you this right now. I've already pressure tested this tank, everything looks good. So right now all we gotta do is pop a couple holes in here and weld these fittings in. Okay guys, just wanna show you a little issue I ran into here. Our back feed on the fuel line was too close and it was just touching the sound deadening. So this is how it was before. So I needed just to really shave like a 1/4 inch off. So we're just popping this guy back on, and it will be about a 1/2 inch to a 1/4 inch shorter. And that's gonna give us all the clearance we need now on the rear, so we can run our fitting on it. It's a lot of little stuff like this that's been dragging me down time-wise. On to the next issue, and that's cooling lines. So what I have here, I'll just show you, is a bunch of this 1.25 inch silicone hose, which is really flexible. Not great on tight curves, it will want to kink, but will do really nice to get it to the center hard pipes, which are located in the center of the car there. So here's my idea on this. So what I have here is I just made this simple tank, and we're gonna do something like that. And then this is actually part of the factory cooling system that didn't work with this setup. And I'm going to do something like this. And essentially what it's going to do is that's going to wrap around the intake manifold. And this is going to be mounted somewhere in this neighborhood. So this is going to be our coolant reservoir. It's going to be at the highest point of the motor. And I was going to try to do it closer to the top of the rear cooling housing. However, there's not enough room back there. And so essentially what we're gonna have to do is run the return side back this way, tie into here, and then run it back to the radiators forward. So here I have my coolant reservoir, and I was able to utilize some bends off the factory coolant lines, which are aluminum obviously. So these were really nice to have just for that. And in my opinion, the more hard line you have and the less flexible hose, the better. I mean, it's obviously a more rigid product. So I just have to cut this off and make a 1.25 inch fitting, because this is 1.5 inch tubing on the factory, and that will be it. Oh, I will have to also add probably a 6 AN fitting for the front coolant overflow line to flow into here. So we'll also take care of that. So while we were letting this cool down, I just tossed a piece of 1.25 inch aluminum in the lathe, and I just cut down a little flange on it there, so for the hose clamp, and that's gonna be going right on this end. So I left it a little long. We're just gonna cut the stock one off here, and we'll see what length we need. It really, honestly, probably doesn't matter at all. I just want to show you a quick thing on this too. I just made a barb debung for the radiator, upper or front radiator air bleed. So, you know, things like this, I could have ordered it. They're like $8, not expensive or anything like that. But, you know, I gotta wait another few days and this and that. This took me maybe 5 minutes on the lathe to just knock out real quick. And we're just gonna cut it off right here. But, you know, these kind of fun little things to do that, you know, when you're in a time crunch, you know, works out well. All right, here's the finished product. All right, check this out. This is the next thing we're dealing with here. Not super important to get the car running, but I wanted to do it anyways, is the AC lines. Now, this one, the other AC line, this is the low pressure line, I believe. The other line is a separate hose that you can, you know, remove and do whatever you want with. This one, unfortunately, goes, as far as I can tell, all the way to the front pretty much. So I can't remove this line in any easy way. So what I did here was, you can see this is the Honda adapter for the AC, and what I did was I just cut it right here, and I'm just going to weld this on, and this will fit right in the stock Honda compressor here. And then we're going to do the same because the compressor side fittings are different, and this is the high pressure line, I believe. So on this one, we're just going to do the same on here. We're going to cut this line back and weld on the Honda side of things. So pretty easy to keep the AC. And we're keeping the AC because I live in Florida and it's getting hot right now. I mean, and it's only, you know, May, but it's high 80s. So we definitely have to have AC in Florida, and this is going to be obviously a street car. So that's the plan. All right, check this out. I got my air conditioning lines just squared away. These are actually the factory lines, and all I had to do is just kind of chop the end off and modify it and put the Honda side of the fitting on. So that's this is the high pressure line, and the low pressure here. You can see I just welded on this bend here that I was able to scavenge from another Honda line, and that's where we have to land down there. So it's really just as simple as that. So I know it's not a super priority, but the way I'm doing this is I'm in plumbing mode, right? So all the plumbing gets done, water, vacuum lines, boost lines, all that stuff, all the boost reference, boost solenoid, all that stuff. So that's just kind of my thought process. And last is going to be the electrical. So that should actually be pretty straightforward. But yeah, after this air conditioning lines, this is the last of the plumbing I have. So we're gonna move right on to getting the electrical done. So our engine bay here is pretty much buttoned up with the exception of our exhaust. Everything's done as far as AC lines, power steering lines, coolant reservoir, all of our wiring's run and routed into the back of the car. And I think we're done on this end of things. I do have to bleed the clutch just because somehow during this swap the clutch pedal was depressed and actually shot the rod out of the slave cylinder, so it started leaking and everything. So I need to do that. I need to hook up the shift linkage on the transaxle, things like that. One thing I want to show you guys, I'm not sure if I showed you this yet, is my oil cooler setup. So I had to make a custom bracket right here, or adapter rather, to get the fittings to angle in the way we need to clear everything. But what essentially we have is, this is the outflow, and it flows out, it goes and gets cooled in our oil cooler, which I have mounted like this, and we're gonna run fans on top, or I'm gonna duct up from underneath here and just duct air to come up and out through it, or something like that. Maybe I'll duct air down, I'm not sure. Cross that bridge when we get there. But anyways, so our feed comes in like this, goes through the oil cooler, back out, gets filtered, and there's our turbo feed line right here on the adapter block. So we got a turbo feed line coming there, and then this is our fresh, cooled, filtered oil going right back into the motor. So I tried to make it as short as possible. I know a lot of Honda guys actually don't run oil coolers from what I've seen, but I always think it's a nice option. And especially with turbocharged cars, you're gonna get, you know, a little more heat in the oil than normal. So that's what I'm thinking. But
I'm gonna get those things buttoned up right now, and then I think, guys, in the next video, we're gonna be ready to party as far as getting this thing fired up. So I contacted my buddy, and I think we're gonna get a bass tune in this thing, and see if we can just get it running, and then if it's running and idling, then I can do all the things on my end, make sure, I mean, there's gotta be something wrong. So I'm gonna make sure there's no fuel leaks, I'm gonna make sure there's no oil leaks, coolant lines, everything's running smoothly, oil pressure's good and all that. So I'm pretty sure, guys, that's gonna be the next video, is this car actually running. So let me just keep cracking away here. But yeah, I'm thinking the next video, guys, it's gonna we're gonna see this thing partying. Well, thanks for watching, and on the next one, let's get this motor fired up, huh?